Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about a short story collection that I am so excited about. So it is Black History Month. Normally I do Blackathon on this channel. However, I'm actually not doing any readathons this entire year because I've noticed in the past when I do readathons, my reading gets significantly worse. And for some reason I tend not to enjoy the books. So I feel like something's weird with that. So I just decided, and like again, and I get into reading slumps and I feel like I'm forced to read certain books. And so I'm just not doing any readathons this year. That's kind of my goal, is to not get sucked into any of them because they always seem so fun. And to a point, they are, but for a reading personality like what I have, it doesn't really work very well. So in this case, I was like, okay, let me pick a book that I'm super excited about and focus on that. And I am so excited because I got approved for one of my most anticipated short story collections, books in general actually, because I love the title, I love the idea behind it, and it is The White Guy Dies First. I am so excited about that. So if you are not a horror fan, or you have not heard of this phrase or this like thing that has happened, especially in horror cinema, The White Guy Dies First is a play on the original idea, especially in old horror cinema specifically, where the black actor, normally the only black actor, is the first or at least the second to die in the movie or series or whatever. Generally movie, because again, we're looking at a little bit of older horror cinema. Because obviously now we're trying to stay away from that. It still happens because, you know, racists and people don't think about it when they do it, but you have movies like The Blackening that have come out that kind of make fun of that whole joke. It's so good. If you haven't seen that, it's a black comedy, like literally like a dark comedy. It's so funny. And then you have Scream 2, which was way ahead of its time, and it actually made a joke by having Jada Pinkett Smith at the beginning, and she makes jokes about the black people dying and they're the only black people in the theater, and they end up being the only people who are killed in the theater. So it's just a very, I mean, it's a very obvious thing. Like it's you can tell that directors and writers and stuff have been doing it for years, that it's become this thing in media. And so I love the fact that this collection is literally called The White Guy Dies First, and it has flipped this expectation now to something else. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm so excited for this collection. Okay, so I wanted to go through some of the authors that are included in here. I am going to get some of the names pronounced incorrectly. I will show them on the screen as I'm going over the stories so that you can actually see the name of the author. But this is edited, and there's like a forward and an ending by this author as well, Terry J. Benton Walker, and that person does all the editing, and like I said, the forward and the after. We also have stories from Adiba Jayajidar, Alexis Henderson, Chloe Gong, Farida Abike Iamide, H.E. Edgman, Kaylin Barron, Karen Strong, Kandare Blake, Lamar Giles, Mark Oshiro, Nassim Jamnina, Tiffany D. Jackson, and Terry J. Benton Walker has their own story in there too. So obviously not all of these authors are black authors, but they all are people of color, I believe. So I'm just really excited for this. I'm really excited to see their interpretation of this White Guy Dies First premise. And because I don't know exactly what direction it's going. Kind of my expectations of the stories, which could get me in trouble. I'm sure it'll get me in trouble later, and me not liking what I read based on expectations of the story. But so there's like kind of two different expectations here, where number one, you want a person of color to be the heroine, or at least to survive. They're going to be the survivor of the story, hopefully. And then in horror cinema, often you have the black person as just a throwaway character, like they just exist for humor, and then they're killed off when things start getting serious. So I kind of expect to see maybe in a couple stories like a class clown maybe, and they're the first one taken out of the story. So I could see that happening. Or they're just such an unimportant character and they die first without any fanfare, nothing like that. So that could be it. I'm also hoping to see I'm really looking for some like retribution stories, like we have the dumb white person who is just doing the dumbest things or is just an awful person, and they kind of get their comeuppance. That's what I feel like we could also see in here. So there's a lot of different routes that these could take. I am nervous because I'm very niche when it comes to the horror that I like. So I'm very nervous that I'm not gonna like a lot of these, but that's why I like short story collections, because there normally is something, at least one story that you end up really liking. So we're gonna give it a try. I'm gonna update every like 2 or 3 stories. I'm not gonna do any type of spoilers because I really want everyone to read this. I'm just really excited. I'm really excited because it's such a cool idea, and this could like, this 1000% should be like an anthology series on Netflix or Hulu or something. So I'm just really excited to get into these, and I really hope that I like it because this is a really big anticipated book. So let's get into the short stories. I will update you when I finish the first couple, which shouldn't take me very long. It seems very short. Okay, yeah, these are gonna be super fast to get through. Like, super fast to get through. So I did read 3, so we're gonna go over the first 3. I took a bunch of notes on them. I was gonna start at 2, but I didn't love the first 2, so I was like, let me just keep reading until I get to one that I actually like really like. So the very first one, first of all, the premise is really cool. It's really cool. So we open up with this little introduction of like kind of like a blog post, and we are talking about how there is this missing, was he a director? He's missing something. He does film. I'm gonna say he's a director, but there's a missing director. He's been missing for 13 years, and there's a lot of lore behind this guy because he has 13 films that have never been seen before, and you can only find them kind of, you can watch them, but it's really hard to find them. But there's also apparently floating around like this forum where all of the scripts are kind of like there, or the storylines are written there, and each story is written by this different writer under this director. But the thing that they all have in common is that the person who dies in the story, that actor has actually gone missing in real life as well. So it's a very like eerie thing. It's really cool. It's almost like cursed film as the intro, which I absolutely love. I think that is so cool. So, and it says basically each short story that you read is one of the films, and I just love it. If you don't know anything else about me, you probably know I love cursed film type things, or just anything having to do with film. I don't know what it is. I'm obsessed with it. So I did read the very first 3. Okay, so the very first story is All Eyes on Me by Farida Abike Iyamide. I'm gonna show you their names so you can actually see it and look it up. Okay, so this one, this one was an interesting one. I had a hard time reading this one. This is following our main character, Helen, who is a Black teenager who is getting ready to kind of go to college and get away from the town that she's in. And she's currently in a relationship with this white man who is, I mean, he is very racist, incredibly racist. He sees her as someone who can't go out and do anything. He wants her to settle down with him, and that is the best she is ever going to get or be. And he is just so incredibly toxic, so toxic. And so they're driving around one night. She's kind of like bringing herself up so she can break up with him, but she's having a hard time figuring out how to break up with him. She feels kind of trapped in the relationship and doesn't know how to get out of it. And the way he talks to her doesn't make it any better. She's just, the trapped feeling kind of continues. And so they're driving around one night to go on a date, and she's also having the feeling of like not just him, but she's just not into him like either, or any guys really. She goes in a gas station to kind of take a breather and get away from him, and she meets this girl who she is immediately interested in, and this girl is a part of a circus, and it's like a one night only type of traveling circus. And so they decide to go to the circus, and she brings the boyfriend, and it kind of devolves from there. So I did end up giving this one a soft 3-star. I felt like the whole story, this is the problem we're gonna get with short stories. This is the problem we're gonna get. You can develop a short story, it's just very hard. And in this case, I feel like this story was underdeveloped. I do feel like this was underdeveloped. The killing, what felt odd, like I don't know, it felt extreme for the situation that was going on. Like it felt weird. I felt a little weird about it, and I don't want to feel weird about it. Like I want to feel like, yes, get him. And that's not how I felt about this one. I really didn't like the main character, and he definitely had some sort of comeuppance coming, but for his actions, it didn't feel like the level that it got to. It felt a little bit too much. Like I wanted something else to happen. and this was just a little bit too much for me. So I just felt weird about it. And I think mainly why I felt like it was too much is it related to the underdeveloped relationship that started in it. And it just felt weird. Like it felt like this was an excerpt from a much longer story, where at the beginning we were developing a relationship between the two girls, and then it led up to the circus and what happened. And then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can picture that. So I feel like it really mainly had to do with the undeveloped relationship that seemed to go from 0 to 100 in a day. So that one, that's kind of why I felt weird about that one. I feel like just too much stuff was trying to be added in here without much background. But I still like the main character. I'm glad the guy got comeuppance, but I don't know. That's why I kind of gave it a 3. I'm just kind of mixed on this one. Oh man. And then we had another stinker. I feel like this one is hard to rate because I know that Kaylin Barron and me don't mix as reader and writer, because I have not liked a single Kaylin Barron that I've read, and I've read a couple, and this was no different. So this is Hedge by Kaylin Barron. I just didn't even like the writing style, and that's the issue that I've had with most of her books, is I don't like the writing style. And in this one, even more than that, it was just gross. It was gross. I didn't like it. I didn't like the ending. I really didn't feel like this belonged in the collection. It just felt kind of weird to be in here. I just didn't like it. So in this one we're following, and I gave it a 1 star. So this one we're following our main character, Brandon, and he is the little brother of Wesley, I think. Yeah, Wesley. And their father died, I think 2 years ago, in this like gruesome, weird death where it was only his skin that was found and nothing else was. And it's just very strange and no explanation. And it happened in this like garden that has now been closed because there's been multiple strange deaths that have happened here. So Brandon and Wesley's mom goes off to work, and Wesley decides he wants to hang out with his friends, who are terrible. They're just not good people. They're awful. Wesley and Brandon go with them to say goodbye to the garden because it's about to be demolished the next day. So they go, and which is weird because their dad died there. So Brandon's feeling really weird about it. He doesn't want to be there. And then he starts hearing noises, and there's something very strange happening in the garden. So I just did not like this one. I didn't like the end. I don't like horror stories that are hopeless. I just don't. That is not the type of horror reader or watcher that I really like. I like to have a like survivor. I like to have something like that where I'm not depressed after I read it or watch it. If I'm like really depressed afterwards, I'm just like, I didn't enjoy this. So for me, I have to have some ray of hope, ray of sunshine in my story to enjoy it, which is not a lot of horror. So a lot of people might really, really, really like this. It was an interesting type of story, but I just didn't like the writing style. And again, for my own personal taste, this was not it for me. So I did give it a 1 star because I really didn't like it. Okay, and the one that saved the first 3, I guess I gave the first one a 3 stars. So that's like middle ground. The Golden Dragon by Kendare Blake. I have heard this author before. I have not read anything that they've written. I love this. I give this a 5 star. I absolutely love this. This is exactly what I wanted from this collection. It was like the retribution for all retribution. This is just perfect. This was so good. So this is following our main character, Sophie, who is a Korean American girl, and she has an older sister, Summer, and they work at their parents' Chinese restaurant. And she has made friends with this group of racist white people who can't tell the difference between Asian people or don't care to. And they kind of use derogatory Japanese terms against her, even though she works in a Chinese restaurant and she's Korean. And like, I've literally heard people be like this. Like, the disrespect to just assume all of Asia is exactly the same is like the audacity, the actual audacity. But I've heard people do it. I've heard people do it. So this one immediately I was like, yikes. Yeah, this is, I really heard people do this plenty of times. So anyway, she has made friends with this group, and she also has a boyfriend in this group, and they are all white privileged people, and they drive by the Chinese restaurant, pick her up, and then tell her that they're gonna break into this like monastery temple kind of thing where there's ghost stories there, blah, blah, blah. So an incident happens and then bad things start happening to the group from there. And it's so good. It's so good. I do feel like the ending is a bit obvious, but I did not care. I did not care one single bit. I loved this. I ate this story up and I was just like, yes, yes. This was the like exact story that I was thinking like that I would like. But yes, it was so good. It was so good. Okay, so we started off kind of rocky, but we're starting to get there. So I got a 3-star, a 1-star, and a 5-star, and we're gonna move on to the next 2 or 3 stories. Okay, I'm also watching Vanderpump. I forgot to watch Vanderpump last night, so I'm also watching Vanderpump while I read these, but they're really fast. They're like really, really fast. I'm probably just gonna read them all this morning into, yeah, because it's going really fast. This morning into this afternoon, unless I gotta do packing, like more packing stuff. I also have to do, I got so much stuff to do. Our realtors are coming Friday, so yeah, that's nerve-wracking. That's nerve-wracking. And I really want to clean the house before then, and the house is a wreck. So anyway, I read the next 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I read the next 3. Didn't go great. didn't go great. So the next one that I read was Best Served Cold by H.E. Edgeman, and I gave this one a 1-star. I gave this a 1-star. Again, this is my own personal taste. I think extreme horror people will really like this. This was gross. This was really gross, like made me physically nauseous. If more of the stories at the beginning had been like this, I probably would have DNF'd the whole collection, because it was disgusting. It was so disgusting, the descriptions of this. This felt like extreme horror. I've never read extreme horror, so I don't know what's classified as extreme horror, but this felt like extreme horror to me. When you are describing body parts being flayed off and things being cut off and eating things, and I'm just like, I was really glad this wasn't a really long story. Like, really glad it wasn't a long one. So anyway, this is following our main character. I did like that this was following a Native American character. I wasn't expecting that. So I like the diversity in these stories. This is following our main character, EJ, who is currently going through the process of reconnecting with her heritage, and her older brother Kai is also going through the same type of experience because their parents wanted to separate them from the lifestyle to put them in white schools and do white things so that they weren't looked down upon, stuff like that, but they really want to reconnect with their ancestry, and so they're going through that process of reconnection. And at the same time, Kai has met this boy Isaac, who is this like Aryan looking perfect specimen of a human boy ever, and it's unsettling. EJ is unsettled by him, but Kai seems to really, really like him, and they have some sort of situationship, flirtation, friendship kind of thing going on. So EJ's like, I gotta trust Kai. I gotta trust Kai. They seem to be really, really good friends. They seem good for each other, etc. So one night her car breaks down. Isaac shows up to take her home, and everything just kind of goes downhill from there. This one was just gross. Like there's nothing else, and it was the end was depressing. The end was so depressing. Oh my gosh. Yikes. The sad thing is the writing was so good. Again, the sad thing for me, for people who like extreme horror and this kind of horror, you guys are gonna love this one. Like, you're going to love this one. But for me, it was just but the writing was so good. The idea was really good. I just cannot stand the level of gore that was in this and the descriptions. And then I really, really did not like the really depressing ending of this one. The next one was a huge bummer. The next one I read was The Protege by Lamar Giles. And this one just really kind of was a bummer. I really loved the beginning of it, but there was a point that happened in the story where everything was just like weird afterwards, and it's not like a good weird. It was like the story probably should have gone in a different direction kind of weird, and I really didn't like where it headed. Again, didn't love the ending of this one. But this one is following our main character Troy, whose older brother Darius is going to be watching him for a couple days while their parents are off on some anniversary trip. And Troy is super into magic. They have a next door neighbor who is teaching him magic, and he shows up at the door and says, "Hey, Troy, can you take care of this package? I got to go into town and it's supposed to show up." And Troy's like, "Of course, yes, of course." And the second the door closes, the box appears. And this box is basically the issue with the whole story. The box is the problem. the box causes problems, and the story goes from there. So this one, I can't give much away because it starts. And again, I love the beginning. I love the beginning. There's a point where you find out what is in the box, and from that point on, I don't really like the story. It just takes a weird turn, and so I did give it a 2-star. I didn't hate this, but I generally just felt disappointed in this one. And the next one that I read, I was really excited because I really like Chloe Gong. Dosel Girls by Chloe Gong. And I gave this one a 4-star. I actually really like this one, but there was, I don't know, there was something a little bit missing from this, but it was exactly what I wanted from this collection as well. It was just a straight up slasher. Like, it was a straight up locked in the cafeteria of a high school slasher, and it was good. It was really good. You had some very unbearable characters that ended up biting it, and it was just, yeah, this is a really good one. If you just like classic slashers, I highly recommend at least reading this one. It was really good. I really loved it. So another really good one. I would say 4 to 4.5 stars. This is following our main character. I'm really bad at finding names. Adelaide? Yeah, Adelaide is our main character, and she was just dumped by her uber popular rich boyfriend and then lost all of her friends because apparently they were Jake's friends. And she is in charge of a committee though, and so they're setting up for homecoming or prom or some sort of dance, something like that. And so she decides to go anyway, even though everyone hates her now because she's not popular and not dating the jock. And when she gets to the auditorium or the cafeteria, I think it's the cafeteria, the doors lock and bodies start hitting the floor. And it's just so good. It's really good. And it does what old-fashioned movies did to black characters. Like, it treated white characters like cannon fodder. It was like, oh man. So I really liked that. I thought it was perfect for this collection, what we were looking for, and it was very entertaining. It was really good. I have this amazing capacity to forget that I'm doing a vlog. Like, it is this amazing ability to forget that I'm actually supposed to be doing something and not doing it, and then realizing, oh, I was supposed to do a thing and then I didn't do it. So I finished the rest of the book, which means I have 7 short stories to actually tell you about. If you could tell, I got wet hair. I showered this morning already. I've been having to clean the house because we have realtors coming tomorrow to take some like preliminary pictures to kind of get an idea of like what we need to fix, what is going to sell well, kind of that kind of stuff. So you can also see my Theragun in the background for my back. I was also I'm used to saying heating my back, but I'm actually icing my back. I'm trying that instead because heating isn't doing anything. So far, I think icing is working a little bit better, so hopefully. And I'm gonna see, I have my first physical therapy appointment tomorrow, and it's actually with the lady that I was with before, which is super exciting because she was amazing. She was amazing. She is tough, and I am so excited because if anyone can fix my back, my lower back, it's gonna be her. So I really hope she kind of has an idea of what's going on, because none of my doctors do. So knowing her, physical therapists to me are just like, they're geniuses. They're absolute geniuses. And so I'm just really hoping I tell her what's going on and she's like, yeah, I've seen this before. And I'm gonna be like, yes, no, please fix me. Or at least make it more bearable. So anyway, yeah, I've got 7 stories to talk to you about. And I do actually think this half of the book went better, because I guess I am technically like 6 stories into it, because there's 13 stories, because in the title I think it's like The White Guy Dies First, 13 Terrifying Stories, something like that. So anyway, the next one that I read is called Grey Grove by Alexis Henderson, and I have not read an Alexis Henderson yet, but I know that they are the author of that super popular book, something to do with blood and vampires. But yeah, that is Grey Grove, Alexis Henderson. This one was really disappointing. I ended up giving this one a 2-star, and it's not because of the writing style was great. The writing style was great. I really enjoyed it. I liked the overall story. The problem was it was so incomplete feeling. Like, this one literally felt like I read an excerpt from a book. Like, it feels similar to that other one where I felt like it was an excerpt. This felt 1000% like it was like a free Amazon sample for the beginning of a book, and then we're actually going to go into a book. So I don't know if this was supposed to set up a future book or something, but this felt like a book. And that's sad because I really like the beginning of this one. So this one is following our main character, Rumi, who is working with, I think it was Caitlin, and they are podcasters. And Caitlin is very much, she wants to be like this internet personality, while Rumi does want the fame, but she is more of a behind the scenes kind of person who wants to tell a story. They're doing podcasts about haunted places, and they end up going to this plantation where this guy, Kyle, who was a terror, absolute racist terror, who was bullying this boy, William, and chased William into this swamp kind of area on the plantation, and Kyle was never seen again. And a lot of people think that this area is haunted by Kyle. And so they're doing this podcast, and Rumi wants to focus on all the facts. Rumi wants to talk about how Kyle was not a good person. He was, even though he is the victim of this crime, he was not a good person in life. Like, his death does not wipe away his actions that he had previously done. And I think that's a really good point. I feel like a lot of people, it's not villainize, the opposite of villainize, people who die and they're just like, oh, they were an angel all throughout life. And it's like, that's not how real life works. So I do like that this was brought up in this story. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, maybe I should have given it a 3-star. But I really didn't like the ending, the incomplete ending. So anyway, they're going to this plantation, and Rumi is talking about how it's not right that weddings are being held at this plantation because, like, people literally died and were tortured and killed where you're standing, where you're having your wedding. So they go over that a little bit. And Rumi and Caitlin have kind of been not getting along as well, and Caitlin has been hanging out with some people that Rumi doesn't necessarily like. And finally, Caitlin's, like, inner racist comes out, and she makes a comment about how the only reason you want to focus on all these other things is because you're black, is literally what she says. And it's like, oh boy, I think that's pretty much it. Like, there's no recovering after that. There's absolutely no recovering after that. And so they get into a little bit of fight, and then stuff happens in the story from there. And again, I loved everything this story talked about. The way that an ending is done in a short story, to me, is incredibly important, and I just don't feel like this one was done very well. It felt very anticlimactic. It felt like we were waiting for more to happen. So for me, this is like, again, the more I talk about it, the more I liked it. But I'm gonna stick with like a 2.5. We'll go 2.5. I'll bump that up a little bit. But I like the writing style. I'm excited now to read her book, because I have that, I just haven't read it. Was it a dowry? No, that's the other one. I'm literally, like, picturing it in my head. It's the girl in the red dress, I think, on the cover. I just can't remember. House of Hunger. House of Hunger. That's what it is. And so I'm excited to read another story that she's written. I'm just excited to read, like, a full-length one. I don't know if I would necessarily be excited to read a short story. So I'm just weird about that one. That one's a really weird one for me. So the next short story ended up being a 5. So good. This is one of my favorites from the entire collection, obviously, because I gave it a 5. But this is Everything's Coming Up Roses by Tiffany D. Jackson. And I'm actually surprised because I did try to read, what is it? The Weight of Your Blood, The Weight of Our Blood, something like that. It's the Carrie almost reimagination kind of story, and I didn't love it. So now I'm thinking, like, I tried to read it, I didn't make it very far. So now I'm like, maybe I should try it again because I loved this. This was so good. But this is a totally different type of writing style. So this is following our main character. Oh man, what is her name? I don't remember. Lisa Nelson. This is following our main character, Lisa, but it's told through diary entries. And I'm a mixed media girly. I do absolutely love mixed media, and this was used brilliantly. So through these diary entries, we know something already bad has happened because it literally opens up saying the following are excerpts from the journal of Lisa Nelson at age 18, and it's an evidence item. So you're like, what happened? What happened? Why is her diary an evidence? And it starts off very innocuous, like she's an 18-year-old girl who's dealing with a bit of some unknown disorder, and she just seems very, like, she's trying to get her life back on track and stuff like that. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And you're kind of just going through her mundane life at first, and then the journal entries get more and more sinister and creepy, and you're trying to figure out what's going on, and it's just not what you expect, and it's so good. It's so good. 100% 5-star. This was such a fun one. I would recommend this one. Like, if you're not interested in the rest of the collection, I would at least recommend this one because it is that good. Like, this one is so, so good. Okay, the next one was Heaven by Adiba Jayajidar, and this is a 4-star. This one was really cool. So this actually, I think, is the only sci-fi one in this collection. It was very sci-fi. I loved that. I was not expecting a sci-fi horror for some reason. I don't know why I wasn't, but I was not expecting sci-fi horror. And this is very, if you enjoyed Annihilation, this is for you. This is for you. This is like my like, I didn't love Annihilation. I thought it got too weird. This is like a short to the point version, I feel like, a little bit of Annihilation. I loved it. That's just the vibes that I got. It was so much fun. This one is following our main character Ishal and they didn't really say girlfriend, but the person he's romantically involved with, Juliet, has gone missing, and they're ordered to clean out her space, and he decides he wants to go find her, which is difficult though, because they live in this compound called Heaven, and the reason that they live here is that the rest of the world has become like sunken. There was an event where the whole world got washed over with polluted water, like not venomous water, but poisonous water. So there were a bunch of people who were able to make it to this compound called Heaven, and that's the rest of humanity. The rest of humanity that is outside of Heaven has been killed and taken by the Sunken, which are these like monster things that come out of the waters and steal people. And so if you live in Heaven, you kind of have jobs of looking around the perimeter. So one day on the perimeter, Ishal decides to go out and actually try to find Juliet, and that's where the story goes. And it's so good. It's really, really good. Like, the twist was really good. Like, I really like this one. I was not expecting that. And it's just creepy feeling. It's very uncomfortable, and you feel just like, oh, like, what's gonna happen? Like, what's happening? Like, that's the kind of vibes that it gives off. And it was just really, really good. I really enjoyed this one. I'm really sad about this next one. So the next one is Break Through Our Skin by Nassim Jamnia. That's the author's name. I gave this one a 1-star, and I'm reluctant to give this one a 1-star because there was a lot. The backbone of the story I really liked. The backbone of the story, but I did not like the execution, and I did not like the gore level. It was so gory. Again, this is going to be one that gets knocked down for me personally because it was so gory. It was so gross. Like, it was like gag level, like trying to skip things level of gross for me. So it was not it. I'm really sad about that too, because this is actually having different representation than the other stories, and this is actually following a trans, I think, teenager. I think they're a teenager still, and I believe that they're non-binary as well. So this is following our main character. What is their name? Fars, I believe, is their name. I'm not 100% sure. They talk about dead naming, so I wasn't sure if that was their dead name and they were still using it, but I believe it's Fars. But our main character is working for this incredibly racist archaeologist, and oh my gosh, it's just one of those people who goes into other countries and steals their artifacts kind of guy. Like, this is the kind of person this guy is. And so, not a very good person. He makes Fars jump through hoops and makes them just do so much stuff and doesn't appreciate anything that they do, and it's so obnoxious. It is so obnoxious. And Fars is just trying to get through it because they want a recommendation to work, I think, at the Smithsonian, which is like a huge deal. It's really hard to get an internship there, and it would be amazing. And so they get a new artifact that Fars was really excited about, and it's like this eye or something like that. And once they get the artifact, some weird stuff starts happening, and the story goes on from there. So I had a really hard time following at the beginning of it, and I wish I knew more about this culture because there was just a lot of words that I didn't understand, and I tried looking up most of them so that I would understand what was going on, but I did have a really, really hard time following because of the different phrases used and the different language used. Then once I kind of like got a grips of it, then it turned into like the gore, so I didn't even like have time to really enjoy the story before my least favorite thing ever started happening. And so it just went from one issue to the next, and I didn't really like the stuff that was happening in it, like the gory part. Gore aside, I just didn't find the story super interesting compared to the other ones. Which the thing that I did like about this story is that it does this countdown. It's like 8 hours before the beginning, 7 hours before the beginning. And I'm like, what is this beginning? And I love what the reveal was. That honestly was so good. I love the idea of that, and it almost made me cry a little bit, but I still just didn't like the rest of the story. Okay, moving on. The next one was Wasps, which I gave 4 stars. This is by Mark Oshiro. This one was good. This one was good. I liked this one. I gave this one 4 stars. I wasn't expecting what happened in this one to happen, like, at all. This is following our main character, Nina, who is living in the ancestral family home with her mom and normally her abuela, but right now her abuela is sick in the hospital. And there's a lot of drama surrounding the house right now. Turns out that one of their neighbors tricked the abuela while she was sick into signing these papers saying that the house actually belonged to him. And now they're fighting with lawyers against this paperwork because obviously it's fraud. And this guy has been slowly taking over the entire neighborhood and kicking out all the families by using these shady methods. So they're currently trying to protect their home, which is why they're just stressed constantly. This guy has people breaking into their houses so that he can take pictures of like broken things and saying, oh, they're not taking care of their house, they're violating codes, they're doing all this. It's awful. It is absolutely awful what this guy is doing. And so we kind of start figuring out something else is going on, like, behind the scenes. And it's kind of a mystery of us trying to figure out what exactly is going on and what happened to the neighbor's missing son that suddenly has popped up as an issue. So this one was cool. This one was cool. I liked... Oh, the magic was weird in this one. It was different. I wasn't expecting what happened in this one. This was just, I literally can't talk anything about this one. Like, nothing. Because I feel like this one was rather short and it was very, it was cool. I really want this one to have like a novella about the past of the house and the past of the family and exactly how this magic kind of came to be, because it's very interesting. It's very interesting. So I really enjoyed this one. This was a 4-star. And this next one. Okay, this one actually probably is my least favorite of the whole book. This was Hell is Other Demons, and this is by Karen Strong. I really didn't like this one. I really didn't like this one. I don't know if I could even tell you really what happened in this one because I just kept zoning out because the writing was so bad. I was honestly kind of shocked because I feel like the writing, even with the denser story that I had an issue with, the writing was still good. This was just bad writing. This felt like an unedited first draft of a story. I was very surprised because everything else felt so polished and well done and cohesive. And this was so abrupt and it was just not well done. I don't like saying that. I really don't like saying that, but I really don't think this one was written well at all. It just didn't feel thought out very well. I didn't even like the story that happened. It was not good. The writing got to the point where it was so bad that it was actually pulling you out of the story. It was very jarring, very like curt, abrupt sentences. It was just very bland and it was just not good. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. It felt like a freshman writing class in college. Like, I hate saying that. I really hate saying that because that just, I just don't like saying that because it's such a bad critique. Like, it's like, ideas are one thing. Like, an author that you love can have a bad idea in a bad book, like Ashley Winstead in Midnight is the Darkest Hour. But when you critique someone's actual writing, that's like a significantly more difficult thing to fix, I feel like, overall than just having one bad idea for a story. So I don't like critiquing that. So this one is following our main character, who I can't even find their name on the first couple of pages, and she has kind of gotten roped into summoning a demon, supposedly, because her best friend Ivy and Ivy's boyfriend, basically the boyfriend Brett, wants to do it. He apparently has new fixations every couple months, and this is his newest fixation, and this is what he wants to do apparently. I don't know. I don't know why, but this is what he wants to do. It turns out that our main character is in love with Ivy, so she's just there for Ivy, not for the dumb boyfriend. And yeah, they end up summoning a demon, and the story goes from there in very strange directions, basically. Like, yeah. Again, I feel like I could have liked this one a lot, but the execution, the writing style just didn't work. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that one. In the very last story, and potentially my favorite of the whole collection, The Road to Hell by Terry J. Benton Walker. This was so good. This was so good. This was so interesting. Now, I don't know if this necessarily wrapped up the collection like super well. This was more of a haunted house story than the white guy dies first kind of story. That obviously still does happen, but it felt more focused on haunted house. Like, this felt like it should have been in a haunted house collection. But it was so good. This one takes place, I guess, 5-star. You couldn't tell. I'm obsessed with this one. So our main character is actually the haunted house in the story, which is so interesting. This would not work as a novella or a long form book. Like, this wouldn't, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't work. This works so well as a short story. I love it. It's so cool. So yeah, it's following the house and how this house became haunted over the years and kind of its slow descent into madness. And now we have some current people living in the house, and basically it's the story of the house watching them and what happens and what the house does. And it's just so good. It's so good. I love how this was written. I love how it was done. I just loved everything about this one. Again, another one I would highly, highly, highly recommend. I think a lot of people really like this one. This is like your generic haunted house story flipped to show what the haunted house is feeling during the haunted house story. Like, it's so cool. It's basically what if the Amityville horror was told through the Amityville house's perspective. It's so cool. It's so cool. Yeah, that is the whole collection. I think when I told it up, it's about a 3-star. It's about a 3-star. I think that's appropriate for how I enjoy the stories. It was very up and down. I really didn't have any like 3 stars. Nothing was very mid. It was either I loved it or I hated it. That's really how I felt about it. So I feel like a 3 is a pretty good place to sit with this book. But yeah, I am really, really excited I got an arc of this book. I think it was a really fun one to read. I have a couple new authors that I definitely want to check out some of their other stories, potentially find more short stories from them or just long form books, and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm pretty excited about it. So thank you for watching this video. I know it's kind of different than the usual content that I do. It's kind of, I just wanted a more chill video where I was just reading something I was really, really excited about. And it's always nice to get rid of some of those arcs off the shelf. And I was really excited for this one. So very quickly, this one comes out on July 16th, 2024. So you have quite a way to wait. There's only 30 ratings. I'm kind of surprised. It's got a 3.77 right now, which anthologies are and short story collections are always lower than other books. They just are, because people generally rate them 3 stars because people have such mixed emotions depending on what stories they actually like. So that's why I kind of like them, because there's always at least something you really like, and there's always something that is going to challenge what you like. But I thought this was a really good collection. I thought it was really fun. I love this cover. Anyway, that is everything I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely want to know down in the comments down below if you plan to read this. It's really exciting. I think this is a really good collection for Halloween, so I would recommend this. Definitely Summerween would be good, or just wait for Halloween to read this one. I definitely recommend it. But yeah, I had a good time. I did have a good time. It didn't take me very long to read, so that was fun. That was fun. I had a good time reading this one. I don't know how many times I can say that. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you comment down below. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, and make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.